Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's a drizzly, wet day outside, so here I am in the greenhouse, and there's really not much going on because we haven't quite hit spring yet. We had sort of a false spring last week, but this week it's cooled down, and I believe in the 10-day forecast it's going to remain like that, pretty cool, again, at least for the next 10 days. But let me tell you what's going on here in the greenhouse and give you an update as to what is working and some of the things that haven't maybe worked. So let's get the bad news over first. Quite a few of my seedlings in the garage in my seed starting station have failed due to various reasons. One, me. Some of the seeds needed a little cold stratification. I didn't necessarily do that. I didn't do that at all, really. And so they really haven't germinated, and so those seeds are a flop. The second thing was out of my control in a sense. Apparently there's one or more mice in the garage, and they've taken to eating some of the seeds in the seed trays. Now, before you say, oh, just put a dome on it or a cover, yeah, I could, except some of the mice, or again, I'm assuming it's mice, have moved some of the covers off, crawled into the tray, made burrows and dug around for the seeds, etc., etc. Now, I do have some seeds growing in there right now. They are fairly successful. They're still very small, not much to talk about. But when they get a little bigger, I will talk about that, and I will continue to use that, but I'm just going to be more careful about what I put into that seed starting station. And again, when I cover them up, I'll probably put some sort of weight, at least overnight, on top of the humidity dome covers to the trays so that mice don't get in there and destroy my seeds. So that's the bad news. Good news. Where do I start? Let's start with something that's taken up a lot of space here in the greenhouse, and that is going to be Canofia or Canofia. Red hot poker. It's a plant that, if I'm not mistaken, is native to South Africa, and I've been growing it for a number of years, and I really like the plant. And over a period of time, you can turn around and divide that plant. So I dug up 1, 2, 3, I believe. So I dug up 3 clumps, and I have now a ton of small plants. Actually, I have some larger ones too. Ooh. Here's one of the larger ones. What you do is you can cleave, let's say you have a big clump like this. You can cleave it in half with a saw blade, a shovel, something along those lines. You could do that, which I did. And then, of course, I kept teasing it and pulling at it, and that's where I got some of these smaller clumps from. As long as you have enough tuber and some leaves, and again, it's not tuber, it's like tuberous root, fibrous root, not fibrous. It's like a thick root. It's kind of like a daylily. If I sound a little funny, it's because there's quite a bit of pollen in the air. If you follow me over on Instagram, I think I posted a couple of pictures of that. We have a lot of pine trees around us, and those pine trees just explode at this time of year, especially with that warm weather that we had last week, and there's yellow pollen everywhere. And though I'm not really allergic to it, it still gets in your nose, it gets in your throat, it gets in your eyes. It's just, it's rough. So if I sound a little funny, that's what that is. Anyways, so I have a lot of Canofias, however you pronounce it, around taking space. But I also have various seedlings in various stages that will soon be themselves transferring from seed trays over to pots, because I will be up-potting them. Let me show you one of them right now. This is Salvia clary sage. Some of these young seedlings are putting on their true leaves. So, for instance, this terracotta pot that I have them growing in, I will pluck them out, I will separate them, and I will repot those sages. Sorry, I'm laughing because I'm terrible at speaking and I have to edit a lot of this. I will repot those sages into small pots, and then hopefully by that time it'll be, let's say, early April. Probably mid-April, I will start planting them out into the various beds that they're going to go to. There's another one here. This one is tobacco jasmine. That one is taken off like nobody's business, which I'm pretty happy about. It is going to be a bit of a pain to thin and separate some of these. I don't know about you guys, but what I do in a situation like that where they're all tightly packed together is I will pluck out some of the ones in the middle of the groups, thus allowing some of the others to get a little larger and a little more spread out. And again, once they start getting on their true leaves, it's just going to be that much harder if I don't thin them out to pluck them apart. I don't need, there's probably 100 seeds in there. I don't need 100 plants. I have a plant, it'll be going up on the mound. I'm going to cover the whole mound with these things, and they'll just keep dumping their seeds throughout the year, thus creating more plants, thus creating more flowers, thus creating more incredible smell at night. It produces a flower that opens up at night, and it smells like jasmine, and it is incredible. Just wonderful plant. Other successes that I have going on right now. Oh, I was running out of potting trays, which is funny because there's a bunch of potting trays behind me, but that's another story. And I planted up some snapdragons into this container here. And the snapdragons, as you can see, are doing incredible. Again, I have to go through, thin some of these out, and when the time comes, I will then up pot them. Foxgloves. I've been screaming about my foxgloves on Instagram. Not really screaming, but here's one tray of foxgloves. They're doing very well. And I think some of these actually are already starting to get their true leaves on. Again, I have to go through this, thin it out a bit. I don't need, again, 100 of that variety. Probably keep maybe 20 or 30 of each variety. Maybe more. Again, it depends upon how I can thin them and then separate them later when I need to up pot them, which is not a terribly difficult process. I've shown it in prior videos last year. I probably won't show it this year, but if you do want to see me up potting or thinning and up potting, please leave those comments below. I'll show you what I do. Again, I'm no expert. I've only been gardening for a short period of time, but it's not a terribly difficult process. It just takes some time and patience, and then you can go from there. Look at the lupines. You got to look at these lupines. Look at those lupines, and you can even see how some of them are putting on their true leaves now, which is great. Now these are pretty much in individual cells, so when I go to up pot these, it's going to be a whole lot easier than, for instance, one of the other seed trays where I have to do a little more manual. What else do I have growing here that's really great? Oh, my onion. My onions have to go in the ground soon. Look at these. These are my Walla Walla onions. Now, these are not all the onions that I'm growing this year. I will be growing, I have several of the varieties. I have a red rock onion and a candy hybrid onion. So I'll be growing them as well, but I started these first. These are Walla Wallas. And yeah, they're getting to the point where they really need to go in the ground. Now they're in a tray, so it's going to be a little bit, again, a little bit of time, a little bit of patience, but you can gently and easily prick them out, pull them out of the trays. You really don't pull, it's a whole thing. You kind of dig them out a little bit. Either way, I get them out of the tray, I get them into the ground, and it'll probably be happening in the next week or so. Here's a variety of salvia that I've never grown before. This is Red Summer. And if I'm not mistaken, it puts on a lovely red flower. And again, running out of seed trays at the time I was doing these seeds, so I put them in these little pots. Tomatoes. Right now, the only tomatoes I have growing up successfully, thanks to the mice in the garage that destroyed my other pots, are these homestead tomatoes. I have 2 of these pots, so right now it looks like I have a total of 5 plants. I only need 2, so we will see how that works down the road. I may turn around and give some away or just sacrifice that to the compost pile. We will see when I get to that point. At least I have a few tomatoes that I did start from seed and they are growing successfully. Now I did replant the other tomatoes that the mice destroyed. Unfortunately, I moved them, fortunately and unfortunately, I moved them into the greenhouse here where the night temperatures have been getting cooler, and the greenhouse probably stays about 50 degrees, but I think that the tomatoes need just a little bit more to germinate. And yes, the daytime temperatures, as I noted in previous videos, do get up to maybe 100, but the tomatoes haven't germinated yet. So I'll give them another week or so. If they germinate, great. If they don't germinate, I may just start all over from scratch. And if that doesn't work, then I'll go get a plant start at the local store. What else? Now, I've tried to do this last year and it didn't work out so well. And I tried this year and I'm having mixed results. But let me show you. Golden Ticket Privet. Now, I tried replicating this. The camera keeps focusing on my face. Now, I tried replicating this last year, or I tried propagating this last year, and it didn't turn out, it didn't work at all. This year, I, again, tried propagating, and obviously there's one. I have 2, 3, and I think I have a couple of others, but they're putting on new growth, which is always a good sign that your propagation worked. The one I just showed you had no rooting hormone whatsoever in the cutting, in the pot. It was just watered constantly throughout, kept on a sunny windowsill here, as it were, kept on the sunny side of the greenhouse. And it's grown. It's growing, which is fantastic. So hopefully by maybe the fall, depending upon how fast the plant grows, I can plant the plant out. If it needs to go in a pot until next year, so be it. But I have a propagation cutting which took off, which is awesome. Shasta daisy. So I have a tray full of these. They're growing, and these seem to be a bit more spread out. I'm a little surprised that I planted the whole tray, and I only seem to have roughly 20. I'm not going to count them all. So I have roughly 20 in the seed tray, but I spread all the seeds, and I know there were more than 20 seeds. So again, it just goes to show you how seed germination can be a funny thing. Ooh, this one's crazy. I'm getting a lot of seeds here, and I have multiple pots of these. Phlox Twinkles. I think that's what it's called. Phlox Twinkles. If I remember, I'll post up a picture of what it looks like. It's supposed to be an annual. I don't know if it'll actually survive as a perennial down here in growing zone 8A, but I can try. And it has the craziest, most colorful flowers I've seen. I'm still not 100% sure what I'm going to do with them or where I'm going to plant them, but I do have a pretty good germination rate on them, which is pretty exciting. So yeah, so that's kind of it today. I do have a lot of seeds that are growing. They're succeeding. Life is wonderful. The greenhouse is working out fabulously for the whole seed germination and growing. You know, I sow my seeds, water them, put them on the bench, and what comes up because I'm not running a business or I'm not looking or expecting for 100% germination. I just try, see what works, what doesn't work, what succeeds, what doesn't succeed. This is my first year having a greenhouse. So again, I didn't know what to expect again so far. Seed germination, springtime, etc., etc., etc. You know, today's a cloudy day in here. It's about 60 degrees. Outside, it's about 50 degrees. This is it. You know, this is what I'm trying. This is what is working. And again, I've had some stuff that hasn't worked. The other thing I did, and I mentioned in another video, or I think I mentioned in another video, is I am overwintering various plants in here. And one of those, obviously those, my citrus trees, I'm overwintering them. And I recently went to Lowe's and I purchased this crazy looking lovely plant here. And this is called Ballerina Red Aramia, or I'll put the name here, but apparently it's a perennial, comes back year after year. It needs 6 hours of sun, but I was just really caught by these lovely red little flowers. It's supposed to flower in summertime. Again, to sell the plant, they force the plant started early under ideal greenhouse conditions, and then they're pushed out to Lowe's, etc., etc. And then somebody like me sees these beautiful red flowers and goes, "Hey, I'm going to buy that," and it's already flowered. I imagine, or I think, and again, maybe leave your comments below if you have any thoughts or opinions. But if I cut these back, theoretically, it would rebloom in summer, maybe. Worst case scenario, it doesn't bloom this summer because it's already done blooming, and it'll rebloom again in the summer next year, which is fine. But I don't want to plant them now because of danger of frost. So I keep them here in the greenhouse. I'll just keep them watered for the next few weeks, and then I will plant them out into the ground once the danger of frost has passed. So I have a lot of planting at this point with what has succeeded and what I've kept alive here in the greenhouse to keep me planting probably into June. But we will have to wait and see what happens. If you like this sweatshirt, check out all the links below. I have links to my store, my website, other social media, blah, 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 blah. You've heard me and every other content creator on the YouTubes talk about all this, so I'm not going to bore you any further. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Click that bell icon to be notified when I do post a new video, because YouTube is always screwing around with the algorithm and other things. So that's going to wrap it up for today. I'm going to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.